John, I've got a bit of a suggestion and would like to get your feedback on this. In your presentation, you said we start with people, we move to process, and we end up with technology. Later on, you mentioned that construction is probably the most inefficient industry, and it needs innovation to be a bit more efficient or to progress, which innovation is technology. However, you had it at the last part of your process. What if we turn this whole approach from a bottom-up to a top-down approach? Will that work? So we force the technology down everyone's throat. You're from the army.
It doesn't work that way. No, it doesn't work that way. I think if you look at any, we're talking about change here. We're talking about transformation, aren't we?
Yeah.
Transformation really works well when the people get it, and it's people who make transformation. Once the idea is accepted, how you then achieve that, that's when you get into the process and technology that makes that work. And you start any transformation program, it's the first thing you start with are the people. That's how you change the way you work. And so you encourage people to come up with innovative ideas. How you then generate those ideas, frankly, it's irrelevant. The technology allows you to do that, but it's get the ideas first, get the people thinking about it, and get that flowing.
Okay. Look, I remember 7,000 years ago, Moses got his 10 Commandments on a tablet. We get our instructions on a tablet. So, I guess humanity hasn't progressed very far in 7,000 years. How can we accelerate that uptake of technology? And, Patrick, I'd love to have your feedback on this, because you talked about innovation in construction and automation in construction. As a person who's on the field and providing the solutions, what's holding us back and what's slowing the construction industry from taking innovation with open arms and progressing a little bit faster than what we are?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there's a couple things. One of the things which I think is a strength of the industry is that it's a very practical, sort of set of folks that are in the field. So they have to believe that these technologies work. It's not something that's sort of be implemented or attempt to be implemented and then not successful. I think for us, I would call it almost guerrilla warfare to a certain extent. We go project by project, small meeting by small meeting to help our clients sort of get a view of the technology and then get to use it. And I would love if it would be something simple like a web download for all those things. But the reality is, our industry is a hands-on industry, and I think I wish I had a more clever way to do that. But I think we realize when we do that, and we have guys here that do that every day, sort of thing, we get great response. But it has to be something that they can see and touch and be comfortable with. So I think it is all of us together figuring out how we get that accelerated. How often can we have events like this? How often can we go see each other? How many projects can we have that experience with and accelerate that? I think it's a very practical view of the space.
Thank you. I'll move on to Andre. Every Australian is concerned about the Olympic Village. What's going on?
I hope we have only the small wishes and we don't have a big problem. What's going on?
Okay. Look, on a more serious note, you mentioned that you in Brazil have three levels of government, which is identical to what we have in Australia, by the way. So we have federal, state, and municipalities. We in Australia, we don't have any mandates. There's a little bit of talk about that, and probably will happen in the next 3 to 4 to 5 years. Some policy is happening as well, but not mature enough. In your view, if in Brazil, and obviously again probably in Australia because it's similar, if we would want to accelerate the policy uptake or the mandate coming along, which level of government would we approach? Municipalities, states, or federal?
Good question. Now, I think should be a decision of first of the land, the federal, but you need to go to state and to municipality. But should be a decision of a country to establish the standardize all the procedures. But as we saw in the second moment, we need the whole world will get together. Otherwise, it will happen when I come with my computer here, I cannot plug in, I need a special adapter. I mean, there should be something that what you're doing, that the countries will get together to have these standards all over. Otherwise, everyone is doing some efforts alone, municipalities, states, countries, the world, and we're going to go to the second phase. I don't think you have any, there's no other way to go, because if you go to the Americans and you say it should be, no, we are Americans, we think, I'm from New York, I think it should be like this. If you go to the Europeans, but of course, should start as a government, but it has to go to state and to municipality. At least the capital should go ahead and all the others should follow.
John, how did the UK do it? I mean, when you talk about mandates, the UK and Singapore are all up the top of the list.
Yeah, the mandate question is an interesting one because, yeah, as you know, with UK, BIM level 2 was mandated by the government for any contractor wishing to work on a government project. The trouble with mandates is people just take it as something they've got to do. Oh, we've ticked in the box, we've done that. That's not how it should work. Yeah, I think it's about encouragement. It's about setting a standard which people should aspire to, rather than just creating a rule which you've got to work to, because that just stifles progress, it stifles innovation, and it prevents you doing the things you really wanted to do. And it becomes just a tick-in-the-box exercise. So I think mandates need to be treated with a real degree of caution, which was the German view, and the Germans have done a lot of mandating of standards, which actually I think just stifles the way you work. And I've got a meeting in 2 weeks' time with the British Standards Institute, and they're looking at the standards or mandates for digitised manufacture. And the one thing I'm going to be saying to them is, don't set out a list of rules to follow. Set out a list of guidelines and quality issues within those guidelines. That way you get people still thinking. If I can just refer back to the earlier question you gave me, because that sort of relates to it in a way. You know, push the technology down and people will respond to it. But I think actually pushing technology down just stifles the way people think. You've got to give them freedom to express themselves better.
Don, now you.
Thanks.
You've put the Sydney Opera House as one of your projects, for example, and I think it was like a bunker under, it's a loading dock. It got me thinking because, I mean, in this crazy world of ours these days, anything can happen, unfortunately, and bad things do happen. We experience that on a daily basis. And I do remember a discussion that we had with one of the airports in Australia a couple of years ago, where obviously the design team and design management were all for bid, but it had to be ticked off by the head of security. And as soon as he saw it, he said, over my dead body, this will never happen, because if the model falls into the wrong hands, this is trouble. But I'm thinking it's like a balaclava, right? You could wear it when you're going to Antarctica to keep warm, or you can wear it to go and rob a bank. So, that was a serious comment.
Yeah, it is.
So, is BIM a balaclava to rob a bank, or BIM is something that's useful for us? You know, I guess you must have experienced it from a security point of view, because I see BIM from a security point of view, if in the unfortunate or in the unlovely case of something happening in an airport, at least if you've got the model, you know where to close things off and how to get to the problem areas. But as I said, the security person saw it as a risk, because if this falls into the wrong hand. Have you been sort of through something similar, and how was it handled?
Not to that level of detail, certainly. There are concerns on certain projects where people see, the fact that the model can be so detailed, and concerns everyone's. But we often made the analogy that whether that information is often retained on other digital systems, maybe it's spreadsheets, maybe it's drawings, and surprisingly, a lot of organisations don't actually look after that information as securely as they should. I mean, I think you'd be surprised if you went online and did some searches, and you'd be surprised what information you could find out about facilities and organisations. and as we're aware, there's hacking that goes on, which, it's the data information. So, I mean, the model is obviously quite useful to people that aren't necessarily probably capable of really understanding design and engineering drawings and systems and that, but perhaps it's something I think that we suggest to our clients that they need to consider, as a security measure, that information is existing just because it's in a palatable format like BIM and it's able to be quickly and easily distributed. It's much the same as other information. And, would you keep, we heard the recent examples of how hackers have got through point of sale systems in Target in the US to access people's information. It's quite a similar sort of scenario. So it falls into that whole category of digital information and protecting it. But we haven't had any of our clients to date that have gone and said, don't do it for security. Yeah.
Right, can I just add to that, please? It's quite an interesting question you raised there. When you look at the whole cybersecurity area, clearly we got a lot of effort to protect data on platforms, to put security protocols in place. But the biggest loss of data in the cybersecurity world comes from the physical loss of data held on movable devices. And it's the loss of the laptop, it's the loss of the iPad, it's the loss of in the old days of floppy disks and CDs.
Yeah.
That's where most of it went. And I think in the software, electronics world, we're actually getting much, much better at how to protect data. And that's certainly my time in the army used to concern me about a lot of the material that was around. How do you protect it better? And it was the physical loss which was the most difficult thing to deal with. Because there's one individual who makes a mistake, forgets something, and you can lose an awful lot of data very, very quickly because he or she has left their device lying.
Andre, while we're talking about bad things, you mentioned BIM for compliance, which translated into, I guess, using BIM for anti-corruption, I think, the way I understood it. Has been in Brazil been used in that fashion yet?
And the government and many authorities now, they are implementing. I mean, this is going to be the future because we need to transparency through the whole process. And when you work with BIM, I think this could help a lot. I mean, this is starting, and we have some discussions going on, and this will be the standard for the future. All these documents will be, you can follow the whole process and check in different points what's happening with the specifications, with the quantities, with the prices. Of course, when you have all the data available, it's much easier to check. And I think this is a big issue, yes, of course, all over the world, but in an emerging country, this is a big issue. And I believe this will help a lot.
Okay, thank you. Don, you mentioned what BIM is not, right, in one view. No, maybe, no, sorry, it was Stuart.
Yeah.
But it's a question to all of you, I guess, and Don, I'd love to get your feedback first. And I have seen many presentations about what BIM is not, rather than what BIM is. So it's sort of becoming the term of reverse racism these days that we hear. Why are we talking about what BIM is not, rather than, is there enough confusion in the market that we're now saying this is not what BIM is? Because there is an intersection in Melbourne actually where there's a big sign that says this is not a roundabout. Because it's actually not a roundabout, but it does look like a roundabout. So Vic Rolls went to the stage where rather than fix it, to put a sign that says this is not a roundabout. Why are we talking about what BIM is not?
Well, I think there's a problem if it's something that you've got to have a sign to tell you what it's not, and I'd say the same thing would apply to. Look, I agree with you. I mean, I don't see the point of saying something's not BIM, or if it's not self-evident, it's I don't. It's like I suppose an interface for anything. BIM is in some ways an interface, and if you have to start explaining the interface before you started, you've already lost half the audience. So yeah, I don't pursue that line logic. I think it's, to me, it's, you know, BIM can be a lot of different things. It's about, you know, information. It's about aggregating information, but it can take so many different forms on different projects that we certainly work on, and that I've seen, you know, others work on. And I don't see much advantage in pursuing that line of reasoning, to be honest.
Patrick, do you see that us vendors created some of the confusion by pushing technology too much?
Yeah, we certainly, I think, you know, back to Don's comments, I think we have almost stopped trying to explain BIM. We don't find it productive anymore. I think, you know, I think for us, yes, we certainly contributed to some of that. I think as we sort of, you know, as the industry evolved and as the tools evolved, we were, you know, compelled to explain what they did or maybe what they didn't do to a certain extent. But I think we've tried to sort of move away from the term to a great extent and more explain about what's the processes we're using to sort of get to the destination and what's the benefit of that, of both the processes and the destination. I think that for us is the critical dimension. And, you know, so we've, because I find it's an endless loop of what it is and what it's not.
Yeah.
And I don't find it's very productive anymore. So I think, you know, I would say yes, we probably all contributed to it at some point. But I think the industry is evolving a bit around that.
I think that actually we do social service in the industry. So industry is interpreting BIM in an effective way that it wants to move it. Where the confusion has come, and I won't go beyond it, where the confusion has come of the number of consultants who try and tell you what BIM is. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, we don't have any consultants.
No. My second and last question is to John. I can't find it, so that will be the
It is beer.
You've mentioned smart cities are now turning into sustainable cities.
Yep.
And you've mentioned duplication of Singapore, and now we have the ability to, I guess, reassess the shadowing and the wind tunneling and all that good stuff, and, you know, do it better when we're duplicating a city. But in reality, most of the world is not in a position to duplicate their cities. And if Singapore is a smart city, there's a lot of dumb cities around the world. It's just stacked. It's, you know, and hundreds of years of buildings and what have you. How can we use this technology to turn our dumb cities into smart cities and eventually into sustainable cities?
Well, what I see happening is that, all right, Singapore is the leader in terms of what was smart is now becoming sustainable. But when you look at cities where there is a huge amount of legacy, and the one I know particularly well is the City of London. I don't mean London, you know, the Greater London, but the City of London, that 1 square mile in the middle, which is autonomous, is self-governing, self-funding, and where most of the people who want to work in the financial sector go. That has a huge amount of legacy. A lot of the City of London was built in the 14th century. They're now looking at how they can manage that legacy better and incorporate some of the new stuff they want to do inside that environment. They've got to start somewhere. They want to become smarter in the way they do things. They want to become more sustainable, the next level up, and really start to plan the future of development of that city. Where do they start? When I was speaking to them a few months ago, we were talking about use of sensors. I mean, a lot of there are sensors everywhere. People, you know, the big sensor that you see all the time is a camera, and their problem is they can't use any of that data in the way that I was talking about because their sensors are all analog. So the first step is to create digitized sensoring, and that's the step on the road. And then the next thing evolves from that. But I think what I was seeing are cities that they don't necessarily want to be smart. They're looking to the future. How can they make themselves better in the future? And the term future cities is coming more and more to the fore. And then there are 6 cities around the world that want to be, you're looking at the future cities. Cities that range, diverse places from Fiji to Georgia. I mean, Ulaanbaatar in Georgia is looking at how it becomes a future city by taking what it's got, but looking at how it might change that in the years to come. And it's a very long process. But it's grasping the fact that what data have I got, what data do I need, how can I actually improve the way I manage our activity? Because in long term, that allows them to spend their money in a much better and more effective way. But they're all thinking about it, which is interesting. All thinking about
you've got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
My very last question, which is the most important one, is for Patrick. What do you think the future of BIM if Donald Trump becomes the president? You know that's going to happen. You know? Can't be an American for a whole day and you don't get asked that.
One Trump question, it's going to be an interesting November, I would say. It's, I'm thinking about moving to Australia.
Thank you, Patrick. All right, well, look, we have 2 minutes, so we have 2 minutes for questions from the floor. Ben, where are you, Ben? On the microphone again. Any questions from the floor to the panel?
Thanks for that. Yeah, Callum Ford from Intergraph. We've heard a lot, obviously, about the management of data and all the information that's coming from BIM, and obviously that's there to improve productivity and reduce costs. Can the panel maybe give some examples where they've seen, BIM interfacing with project controls or improving other processes that exist today to get that information so that better decisions can be made, especially around some of these mega projects which seem to go horribly wrong. Is there better ways of project controls coming from BIM as well?
I mean, one practical example that I would say, if we take the sort of the field layout that we mentioned earlier. So, you know, just a few years ago, there would have been a simple location defined without any information around that location. So literally a point, an X, Y, and Z location. The notion of creating a run which has information around that run, whether it's a cold water or a hot water run, what the diameter of that sort of run is, what are the sort of runs being made around it, allow that particular person doing layout a much clearer set of information to make decisions on. Is this the right place? Those sort of things. It's a very practical one, from those perspectives. But so we now will take a number of attributes off that just that location, so that that person in the field has much more information to make the decision. Is this the right place? Is this run the right, sort of the right notion around making that fastening or making that location?
Just to add to that, I think the other advantage of BIM is that being able to have the context available in terms of constructing assets. Often old 2D paper-based or package-based documentation production might be mechanical only and not a great context provided of some other civil work. So now with the digital and model-based, mobile devices, certainly from our perspective, we see huge advantage in project controls and packaging of elements, knowing exactly what's meant to be there, what the sequence might be as well in terms of looking at the modelling sequence, ensuring proximity, safety assessment of heights and looking at prefabrication of elements. So I think that's really a huge opportunity for a lot of organisations in construction to explore.
Thank you.
There's one at the front.
Christopher Rankin from ANCA. I pick up on Andre's point about we don't seem to be able to sell the message of the benefits of BIM, particularly to the client, the end user. The example is in the federal government in Australia, various state governments. They actually haven't mandated BIM. They haven't even given it some sense of priority, or they all acknowledge that it's probably the way forward for design and procurement and FM. Is it because we're all basically geeks and we get it? We need an advertising firm to come along and say, internally I know what you're saying, externally you can't sell that message? Because I don't think any of us have sold the message. I reflect on our own work and we're not getting to the client. The client doesn't want to know about ones and zeros, and he certainly doesn't want to know about the technical benefits. They need a simple story and a simple message, and I do wonder whether we're sort of going in the right direction, but it's not a pull factor. It's not a push factor either. We're not reaching out to clients that initiate work. I'd be open for comment.
So we had one of the slides I had up, I used today was, we had sort of a unique experience. We actually built our office building in Westminster, Colorado. So we had a unique opportunity to sort of be a vendor in the industry, but also build a building. And I had the opportunity to sit with our CEO and explained to him many of the technologies we wanted to use on the building, and realized how poor the industry had done to explain the benefits of these things. So he was a typical, I think, CEO. He wants to know what's the costs, what are the benefits, how do I relate to them? And of course, I think the industry by and large can say these discrete things maybe save money, but at the end, the entire facility, we don't transition those discrete savings into an entire sort of point of view. I agree, actually. I wish I had a better answer, but I would only unfortunately say I agree, actually.
I would just to add to that, I think in some ways we're also looking to, we're looking upwards, but we should probably be looking at ourselves too, in that it is translating all of those savings and for our own purposes. I mean, and understandably, in some ways, you could understand the client's like a consumer. If we're consuming products and other arenas, like I don't really care how BMW or Volvo make their vehicles and sort their stuff out to make. I'm just really interested when that product turns up and it's got a 5-year warranty and it's got every little gadget I want and it's reliable and it's safe. And arguably, that's we rely on organisations like that to do that kind of integration and solve the problems. I understand that our industry, by its nature, is complicated and far more, to get to that state. But I would suggest that we've got to look at ourselves first to help, and maybe that's part of the differentiator we can put in front of our clients and customers. Go to them with a solution. Because like John was saying, the mandate, if it does come from government, is not going to likely be in a form that's going to be something we're going to welcome with open arms.
If I could just add to that, I mean, as I mentioned this morning, I work for a scientific company, but if you mention the word technology to a chief executive, you get the blank look on the face. They don't want to know about that. They want to know how can they improve their business. The fact there's technology coming in somewhere to help them is irrelevant to him or her. He's wondering, how can I make it better? How can I improve my processes? How can I achieve outcomes in a different way? You move into the technology realm and you've lost the argument.
Yeah, absolutely. Andre, you had a comment?
Yes, I think it took some time for the industry to be convinced. But if you talk to Turner in America and you want to perform a big contract without using BIM, they won't accept. And then you have here the answer before. Why should we? Because who stepped on it? But we are still far away from convincing the whole, let's say, chain, the whole, the client, the investor. And I think this should be a big issue because first you have to explain. It's like facility management. What do you do facility management? Please, what is it? Sorry about my ignorance. BIM. I think maybe I'm too we have to change the name, change completely how we're going to sell. Saying, before we did build like this, and last 10 years, and we have to get all together and sell this completely different because they should change the way they will hire us, the whole industry. I mean, they need to be convinced that if they put all together in the first moment, then it won't cost more, it will cost less. But you have for a bank, you have the compliance group. If you go to a car industry, you have the director, the purchase director. He wants to bid with 10 different online. Then I think this should be an issue that we should show that how we did before was the wrong way, and we have another way that we should build for the future, or for the present, for the future. It's like using a cellular phone or a computer. You don't want to know all these details. You just want to know the outputs. If any software that you use now, you don't know how it works. You know just the benefits. I mean, I think this is a big issue. Otherwise, it won't work because only sometimes that really understands the process, they step into it. The car industry, like when Toyota, they changed the way they show the world, and the Americans, the Europeans, the Germans, they also said they did something different and was better than we did. And this was clear for everybody. it's not clear for everybody. I mean, I think the whole industry should get together and try selling it the right way. I don't think it's marketing, but how we're going to sell it, it's not saying BIM. I don't know what we're going to say, but not BIM.
How many facility managers do we have in the room?
About the same as normal.
But that summarizes the problem, right?
Yeah.
We're missing the biggest beneficiary of the whole process, right? Because whether it's design or construction, it's a fairly short period of time in the bigger life of the life cycle of the asset, right? The person who's going to get the most out of the process that we're talking about is the facility manager for the next 50, 60, 100 years, or the owner, and none of them are in this room. So I think for us to progress with all of this good stuff that we're doing, we need a lot more education to the facility managers and the building owners. And that's part of our responsibility, the whole industry. We have time for one last question. No? Okay, let's go back to Donald Trump. Okay. Gents, thank you very much for your time. It was an enlightening discussion, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.